Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about FAFSA verification. This is something some of you may have already been contacted about. It may be something that you don't have to do this year, but you have to do later on. Either way, this video is going to take you through the process and explain what it is and that it's really not as bad as it looks. So what is verification? Basically, some students are asked to complete forms and send in copies of their parents' taxes to confirm that everything you entered into the FAFSA was entered correctly. It's important to know that not everyone is selected for verification. And just because you weren't selected this year doesn't mean you won't be selected in the future. I was selected for verification only once, and it was my senior year of college. So I made it 3 years before having to go through this process. I should also say that getting selected for verification does not mean that you did anything wrong. The people who are selected for verification are selected randomly. It's not because of anything you did or didn't do. I should also pause here and say that this process only applies for students who fill out FAFSA. This does not apply to anyone filling out the Minnesota Dream Act, just FAFSA. All right, so why do you have to do this? Why do you have to confirm that everything you put into the FAFSA is correct? Well, it's kind of a safeguard. Like I said, every year the FAFSA selects a random percentage of students to complete this process and show that everything they put into the FAFSA is correct. And this helps make sure that the right students are getting the right funds for their college education. So I don't know if any of you heard, but a couple years ago, there was like this big scandal with a lot of wealthy families actually giving up their parental rights and putting their children under guardianship of someone else who had less money than they did. And so they kind of were like cheating on the FAFSA. So this verification process is basically to double check that things are being entered correctly so that the people who need the most money to go to college get it. How do you know if you've been selected for this process? Well, honestly, you're probably going to start getting a lot of emails and letters notifying you from the colleges that you've been accepted or that you've applied to. This is a really, really important process, and colleges are going to do everything they can to make sure that you're aware that you've been selected for verification. You can also check this out by checking your student aid report by logging back into your FAFSA. And the way that you do that is just going back to the FAFSA website, logging in, and then there will be a small link that says view or print your student aid report or your SAR. And this is what your SAR looks like. Here's how you know if you've been selected for verification. So up at the top of your SAR, there's this thing called the expected family contribution, or EFC. And the EFC is essentially a scale of how much money your family can afford to pay for college. The lower your EFC is, the more eligible you are for financial aid. It's really important to know that your EFC is not how much college is going to cost you. So if your EFC is 0, that doesn't mean that college is going to cost $0. It does mean you are going to be eligible for the maximum amount of financial aid. So you can see what your EFC is, and then next to that, you can see this little asterisk. That little asterisk means that you have been selected for verification. You will also see there's a small paragraph towards the bottom that says your FAFSA has been selected for verification. Like I said, colleges are going to notify you that you've been selected, but sometimes it can be good to be proactive, log into your FAFSA, and check for yourself. All right, so how do you complete this verification process? It's a lot simpler than it seems. It's basically a matter of filling out some forms and sending in copies of your parents' taxes and your taxes if you file them. Verification forms do need to be completed for every single school that you are accepted to, so this isn't unfortunately a one-time process. You are going to have to fill out these forms multiple times. Every school is going to have one form that asks for information about who lives with you. So you're basically going to say who you live with and who your parents are financially supporting. Like I said, you will also need to send in a signed copy of your parents' 1040 form, and I'll show you how to check for the signature here in a moment. Some forms are available electronically, which is really nice, and that's kind of new for this year, but because of the pandemic, some schools are basically making a whole new process so that you can do all these forms online. Some schools, however, are still asking for printed forms. If you do need printed forms and you don't have access to a printer, please let me know. I can go to school, print them, and mail them to you. With printed forms, and honestly with verification in general, one app that might be really useful to you is called Genius Scan. Genius Scan is an app that you can download for free, and basically what it does is when you take a picture of a document, it scans it as a PDF file, which is easier to email and to upload online than a traditional picture file is. So if you get selected for verification, I definitely recommend filling or downloading Genius Scan to help you out. So let's talk a little bit about how you fill out these forms. So this is the first form that I mentioned. This is the one about your household information. And this is going to ask who is living in your house, who is being financially supported by you and your parents. So this is a pretty easy form. All you have to do is list the people who live with you, how they're related to you, their date of birth, their age, and then if you have siblings who are in college, you would list where they're attending college. The next part of the form basically is literally just a checkbox to explain how you're going to confirm that the financial information that you entered into the FAFSA is correct. And you have a couple of different options for this. If you and one of your parents is able to make an FSA ID, meaning that they have a social security number, it's likely that they can use this handy dandy thing called the IRS data retrieval tool on FAFSA. And basically what that does is just pull all of your tax information directly from the IRS. So if you're able to do that, you don't have to send in any tax forms because it's already being confirmed directly by the IRS. I would recommend if you do have a parent who is eligible for an FSA ID, they have Social Security, please let me know if you get selected for verification because I can walk you through this really easy process to get your financial information confirmed. If that is not an option for you and your parents, if your parents don't have Social Security, or for whatever reason you're not able to use this IRS data retrieval, then what you're going to do is make a copy of your 2019 tax returns. So like on your verification form, you would check this second box here. And I'll show you that in a minute how these have to be signed, but it is very important that these tax returns are signed. If you and your parents don't file taxes, you'll check one of these options. Like you weren't required to, you didn't work, so you weren't required to file taxes. That would be this one right here. Or like this one would just be like, I wasn't required to file because I was working, but I didn't make enough money. I would just recommend just checking this one. And then that's the box that you will check. So this signed 1040 business. So this is what a 1040 form looks like. And then right in the middle of the page, which is kind of weird, you will see this thing where it says sign here. Most of the time this hasn't been signed already. So you're going to have your parents, both of your parents, if both of your parents are filing taxes, sign and date. And then once they've signed and dated, that's when you can use Genius Scan to take a picture and make a copy and send it off to colleges. So what happens if you don't do verification? So you just don't get financial aid. Verification is very, very important to complete because literally, if you don't do it, you're not going to get any money to help you pay for college. I'm going to say that one more time because it's that important. If you don't do verification, you don't get financial aid. So completing verification means that you get your financial aid. If you are getting notifications about being selected for verification, it is very important that we are getting started on this process as soon as possible. All right, so that was a very, very quick overview of all of this. I'm also going to be posting a document on Google Classroom that walks you through the verification process and has some more detailed information. And of course, I am always available for individual appointments if you need help walking through this verification process. But to summarize, this is very, very important. Once again, you will not get financial aid if you do not do verification. Do remember, though, that not everyone is selected. But if you are selected, it is very important that you do verification. Make sure you are paying very close attention to emails that you're getting from colleges, and go ahead and check your FAFSA student aid report to see if you were selected. And then I just want to be clear, like, verification does seem very confusing and kind of scary, but it's actually not bad. It's a matter of filling out a form listing who lives in your house and checking one box. That's literally it. As far as like confusing things about the college process, this is not that difficult, so don't be afraid to like jump in and get started. And if you want help walking through the verification process, you can schedule a meeting with me. My Calendly link is right here. Please use that to find a time that will work for both of us to meet and do some verification. Please reach out if you have any more questions, but otherwise, happy verification.